And from an agency recruiter, I then actually was doing a lot of work for companies, placing people, and I'm like, can I do this for myself? So I did. And I started a company from scratch in Philadelphia area, and ran my own agency for a number of years. And then my wife came into the picture and she said, I would love to be with you, but I can't be with a guy that's working 70 hours a week in his own business. So I gave that up and then went into the corporate world where I've been pretty much ever since. And what I would like to do tonight is to give you a little bit of a perspective of what happens a little bit behind the scenes. So when you actually apply to a company, what do we do with your resume? And give you maybe some tips, some ideas about, as you look at your search, how can you tell your search a little bit geared to what I think companies are looking for. And like Jen explained, the world has changed. It's changed since, I started back in 1995. We were faxing resumes. I remember the day where we had one computer like on this, but this was a lazy Susan. And I would have to spin it to my colleague, and he would get 5 minutes, and then he'd spin it back to me, and I would get 5 minutes. We would run into desk drawers to pull out resumes, all the stuff that we have today. So the world has changed. And as we kind of go through this, what I want to share with you is there's going to be some stuff that I'm going to share. I'm going to be honest, it's going to be maybe a little bit tough to hear. It's just the reality of what today's world is. I don't mean any offense by it. I want you to ask questions too, please. Anything is fair game with me. I think everybody knows that by now. So questions, stop me, pause me. I'm happy to take them. You want to challenge something that I have up here, I'm happy for that too, because this is dialogue and we want that. But let me just so what I would like to talk about first is I want to give you a little bit of an overview of before you even apply to a company. What are some of the things that you may be wanting to think about? Just starting off the search. Yeah. Yeah. So the idea is that we want to do research, right? Because in full transparency, if I am looking for a job and I'm just throwing my resume out there, hoping that something's going to stick, yeah, it might. But I guarantee you're going to get frustrated. You're going to be depressed. You're going to be like, what the heck is going on? I'm applying. I see that sometimes on LinkedIn, right? You'll see a message post from somebody and they're like, I've applied to 800 jobs and I can't get an interview. What's happening? I think I have good skills. I don't doubt that that person has great skills. They're going around with the search in the wrong way. Don't want to be applying to 800 jobs and getting frustrated. So the idea is that taking it a step back is first what Jim talked about. Where is God calling me? What's God saying in my heart? Where do I want to go with my search? Then from there, got to do the research. So it's not just applying to any single job. It's not just saying, hey, I want to go work as an accountant and throwing my resume out there to every single accounting job that's out there. I need to research if I want to work for an employer. And I don't care what employer that may be, whether that, I'm giving you a little bit of a perspective from a corporate aspect, but this could be a retail job. So I'll give you an example. My son's 16 years old. And he wanted to go get a job at McDonald's. So I said to him, son, do you have a resume? He goes, Dad, I'm 16 years old. I don't have a resume. What do you want to get a resume to get a job at McDonald's? I'm like, you're an A scholar in school. I want you to put that down in the resume. You play sports. You have done volunteer work. You're in a choir. Put that all down, let's formulate a resume. So we did that. You think that got him the job? No. No, it didn't. He did get the job, but there's a few other things that he had to do. Two, I said, you're going to McDonald's in Westlake. You know who the manager is that works for that store? Yeah. Go find and do a little bit of research on that manager. Does that manager have a LinkedIn profile? Has that manager been anywhere on the internet? So these are the things, one example, that you have to do in today's world to get a little bit of a leg up. This is a 60-year-old kid who's trying to get a job at McDonald's. Now, the other thing that he did is that he had a friend who worked at the McDonald's. So he used that as kind of the entryway. That's another thing too. It's about networking. You'll probably be sick of me saying that word. I'm going to be mentioning it quite a lot. It's huge. It's huge. So I, want to say it doesn't matter what job you're going after, whether it's CEO, whether it's trying to get into McDonald's, you got to do a little bit of the research legwork to get your foot in. That's what's going to give you the advantage. Not just, well, I'm an HR guy. I want to go work for KeyBank. I apply, nothing's happened. Well, why is nothing happening? Because I'm not leveraging it. I'm not doing the research. I'm just applying to anything out there. The other thing from the inside world, especially a little bit more at the corporate level, is me as a corporate recruiter. If you're applying at KeyBank, and let's say you applied to 20 different jobs at KeyBank, nothing's happening, I get to see that. So I get to see that, hey, this is a repeat offender. We call them repeat offenders in our and we say, hey, this is a repeat offender who's applied 8 times to our company and is not getting any traction. So let me look at it and say, wow, oh, well, this person's just applying anything and everything. Sorry. This is where the tough love comes in. Sorry, you're not going to get a chance. You're not targeted. You're not thinking about what you really want to go after. So it's really, really important when you're doing that research. There's so many tools that are out there to do that research on. Do the research on your career direction, where you want to go. So I just do a couple of them there. Obviously, LinkedIn, we talk about Glassdoor is a beautiful tool to find out specific information about a company. But the other thing is, do I even want to work for this company? They have a good reputation. Glassdoor is where you can go and you can get that. See what employees are saying about that respective company. And do I even want to, leverage that? We talked about cranes. That's, a great tool for a local business. What's going on? Who's hiring? Who's leaving? Who's downsizing? Who's building a new facility? Perhaps. Retail, even. If you're looking at that differently. Work from home, we've heard a little bit about that increase. I also like to use Yahoo Finance, and I know that's a weird tool, and people have asked me, well, say, why Yahoo Finance? Well, Yahoo Finance is also going to give you, especially if it's a larger company, what's going on with that company? Is it stable? Is it growing? What are the finances like? And believe it or not, for some type of corporate jobs, when you go and interview, you may be even asked, did you look at our financials? You have an idea of what we're doing? And if your answer is no, or it's flat, that could potentially rule you out. So these are the things in today's world that you kind of have to spend a little bit of extra time utilizing these tools. But the beautiful thing is that there's so many tools that are out there that can help you, give you that insight. And my strong belief are the people that are doing this and spending the time are the people that are winning and getting jobs versus the people that are just going through the motions of applying and hoping that something sticks. Well, I'll just pause there just to see if there's questions, concerns, Anything that doesn't make sense?
Like, if, like, somebody applied for bank, they obviously want to get in there pretty bad, so they'll take any job you give them. So, but that would knock them out of there, like, that would be like, you don't want to.
If you're applying over and over again, so not necessarily that, if you apply 3 times, 4 times, not necessarily 4. But I've had some scenarios in my company where I've had one individual that applied to 30 different jobs. When you're applying to 30 different jobs in an organization and you're applying willy-nilly, shows me that you're not targeted. Shows me that you're just
want a job.
trying.
You want a job. You don't really.
Yeah.
But it's also showing the employer that you don't have targeted, organized way of how you're going to search. So just showing me that, in a way, it's almost showing that you're desperate.
Yeah.
But from an employer standpoint, and not necessarily from even a recruiter standpoint, but from a management standpoint, the managers are saying, hey, this person is not necessarily looking at things in the right way. This person is just tirelessly applying things. So, hey, they could come in and I could hire them Sonny, but I think 30 different jobs. Well, they could leave 6 months from now. I'm right back where I started. So that's an insider review of how sometimes they look at this. The other thing too that I would like to throw out there and that I would like to recommend is another example, key bank. And you do want to get it. So the thing that I would recommend in that aspect is sometimes not to just apply, but to say, do I know somebody that can leverage me into key bank? And can I get sometimes what's called an informational interview? You may have heard that back in the day. It used to be a big thing where you would try to find somebody that could give you a coffee. And you're talking more, not necessarily in the interview scenario, but you're learning about what's going on in that company from the inside. So somebody that works for an employer that you're interested in. I used to do that all the time, where I would just say, hey, let's go have a cup of coffee and let me learn a little bit about what you do in that respective organization, and then think about how that person could leverage, right, to also start opening up doors. Because now they're also learning a little bit about you, what you're looking for, where you want to go. And from there, they might be able to help you make a connection, and boom, the door opens up, and you're in. And that, again, can be applied for any job. It's how I encourage my son to get his job at McDonald's too. Because I was like, hey, go talk to the manager, but don't go in necessarily asking for a job. First, find out hiring, find out what life is like at McDonald's, and then you can take it from there. So that's just another way. The other thing too is having a referral source. So you're applying to a respective job. If you have a connection, somebody that's endorsing, somebody that's called a referral, believe it or not, that increases your chance by 25 versus not having it.
So he's getting an interview.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily mean
Sorry.
you're gonna get the job,
No,
but
no.
'cause I know when I was working, if an employee came to me and said, hey, this is so-and-so, they're interested, I would at least talk to them.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
sometimes they were a good fit, sometimes they weren't, but I would at least talk to them. And then that might lead to something else, so you just don't know. So the networking is really.
Networking is huge. And when you have that referral source, so me as a corporate recruiter, I put a job out there, and let's say I have 60 applicants against that job. Hey, I'll be sometimes 100, 150, 200. So obviously, I can't look at all 200 applicants that apply, but if I see that somebody that's been referred, where's my eye going first? So right there, to the person that was referred in. Because hey, that person's being endorsed by somebody, my company that works for my company. So I'm going to look at that first and see, does that fit my bill? Then if not, then okay, I'll go look at other applicants. But think about that, 25 times more likely to get an interview. Guess what? You see a job posted on a career site and you apply, do you know what your percentage chance is if you don't have the referral? 2%. 2% of the people that I hire in my company come directly from our website. That's amazing. Like back in the day, it used to be a lot more. Today, it's only 2%. And even social media, you know, everybody bangs LinkedIn, talks about all these other sites. Only 5%. So having a connection in a company, I can't stress enough how important that really is. But you have to take the time to leverage that. You have to take the time to build those relationships. I know it's not easy, but it's something that in today's world is so to get that foot in the door, because like Jim mentioned, you're competing. You're competing against now, you know, thousands of government workers that are out there. Technology, if you're in tech, you know, there's been some layoffs. Oh. The other big thing too, that I just want to stress too, and you'll probably hear this throughout the theme presentation, is the art of how you go about selling yourself, marketing yourself. You have to be concise. Concise. You gotta be concise. And what I mean by that, and we'll talk about this in a minute, it's like I'll be talking to candidates on the phone. That's called typically a screening interview. And I'll ask somebody, why did you apply to my company? I want like a 2-minute response, not a 30-minute response. And you'll get that. You'll get a 30-minute response from people that want to tell you your full life story. People that are in the hiring capacity don't want to hear it, honestly speaking. So you got to practice that art too of how do I be concise. We talked about a 30-second. I love that idea. I haven't personally used it, but I love it. It's the idea of how do I convey in 30 seconds what I'm trying to go after, why I'm valuable to the employer, and giving them at the very end something to action. So yes, I have all these skills, but you got to action it at the end too. So it's about, you know, being able to get to the next step. So it's one thing that you can apply, but if I'm not, you know, taking it to the next step or asking for something in return, it's really not going to go anywhere, right? So was there a question?
I just want to make a comment.
Sure.
When I was working, I was a C2 I worked for attorneys who billed out at $500, $600, $700, $800 an hour.
Yeah.
And I was told, do not come and see me until you can define your question. So I talk about being concise. The first time I was told that, because I would start off like trying to go all the way around, like the way I went to get to where I was. And I was told, don't talk to me. Go back, figure out what you want. And then come and see me. I remember going back to my office going, oh my goodness, define my question. I need to find the question. And then, I mean, I had to work on it. I had to develop that skill.
That's skill development. And that leads me to, you know, my next point. Today, employers are seeking candidates that accomplish these skills. So again, you know, depending on what type of role that you're looking for, yes, it's important to have Microsoft Office. Yes, it's important to, you know, have maybe some of the administration skills. But it's also about the one thing that I hear a lot about is data-driven decision making. So can you use data in your respective role, no matter what you're doing, to help drive decision making? to help propel your company forward. A little bit of a skill. So in my world, in talent acquisition, what it means for me is that at the beginning of the year, we do a mapping for our company. How we're gonna hire for the whole entire year. Which teams, which groups need talent. Then we have to do some algorithm and say, okay, well, when is the best time to hire that talent? Beginning of the year, the middle of the year, the end of the year. All that goes into a beautiful spreadsheet. Now, if I don't know how to read that spreadsheet, my respective job, probably not gonna have a job that much longer. So these are the things that employers are looking for. You have the ability, well, it doesn't matter what type of job you have to do it. Take data, translate it, help your company. And again, my eyes tell corporate, Sonny McDonald's, you know, does the people that come through the drive-through. And he needs to look at that to say, hey, when are the peak times? So that we have more people that can serve our customers. Small, example of what important that's happening. We also talk about artificial intelligence, and I'm not going to spend too much time going into that. That's my bread and butter. I love, what's happening in that particular space. But AI is really, really important. And my recommendation is if you have no familiarity with AI, don't know what it is, haven't played around with it, just Google it, learn a little bit about it. I'm not saying you have to become an expert in it, but you should at least have a little bit of a foundation like what it is. And maybe even how I could have potentially applied to your particular career when employers want it. My house. So, sometimes you gotta take a little bit of that time to learn it. Part of that 40-hour, thing that Jim talked about, find jobs, right? I hate to say it, it is almost like a part-time job when you're looking for a job. And these are all the things that we have to do today to get a job. It's about, taking that extra time to leverage, so that way, at the end of the day, you have a little bit of a leg up against the others that you're. That's what it's about. What can I do to give myself a better chance than the person that's sitting to the right, the person that's sitting to the left. People that are doing it, they're getting ahead. The other last thing I want to mention too is that non-traditional work is becoming really, really popular today. So I call it gig working. You may have heard of it, gig working, you might have heard of it, it's a hustle. There's so many opportunities that are out there these days. And that particular idea I heard about entrepreneurship, that could be an angle for you too, where I start off small with maybe a side gig, try out a couple different things, find out what I like, and go from there. I was talking to a friend of mine who honestly was a CFO, major bank, university, got burned out, just didn't want to do it. Making same crazy. To go and do side gig work. It's like, yeah. And he started small, but he did medical supplies of it. I didn't even know what that was. Pretty much all it really is you go to people's homes, you pick up samples, you get to go bring them back to the lab. And he created from like his own car, he created this whole big thing where he got people to work for him. And all of a sudden, now he's making actually more than he did as CFO, working 30% less and having more time with his family. So I never thought about it in that particular way, but side gigs sometimes could be great because it does give a lot of flexibility, especially, you're not tied to that 9 to 5. for people that don't want to go into the office. How do you do that? Create your own hours. You know, take it from there. Now, at the end of the day, is it hard work? Yes. Does it take time to get off the ground? Yes. But there's different things that you can do. Uber. We're doing that. We're working for Amazon. And Amazon even has some ways that you can actually start your own business through Amazon, doing delivery. You want to go that way. So a lot of different angles. There's things even, you know, working from home. I think when you were looking for work from home too, right? Believe it or not, and I, you know, it sounds so weird. Doing surveys. So consumer companies, right? People that sell toothpaste, people that sell your cars, they need people to take surveys because they need to see, hey, is the marketing effective? So, you know, I used to work for a company that made Sensodyne toothpaste. And we did it all the time where we would survey people because we want to know, hey, the commercial that you saw on TV, is that going to lead you to buy Sensodyne toothpaste? Takes just 10 minutes, you fill them out, you get paid for doing it. Now imagine that you're doing quite a few of them on a weekly basis. It's a nice little income.
Sonny, gig work requires more research on what the opportunity is, because if you go on the internet, everybody's got the most important job, you know, this is gonna make you $1 million in 6 months. You know, you gotta be able to do the research to find out, is this a legitimate business? Is this a business that's sustainable? You know, I mean, there's a lot of questions. You need to get somebody that's already doing it and then explain it, how they got in, how they're successful.
And when it comes to gig working, like you said, you really wanna talk to somebody. Find out not what is just required, but what financially might be required. Not everything is, with Amazon, different services, the reasons the companies are doing it is because it's less of them and more of them. So just taking that into account, while they might say, oh, we can make this hourly. Really looking for, like, is it per job, is it just standard hour, like, really what's getting out of it, what's required.
Great feedback.
Concerns about insurance too.
Yeah, some people, yeah, do the, have to be commercial, and that. Not so much what.
Yeah.
If something happens and they found out, for example, you have regular insurance, and you get somebody rear into you, and they found out you had Uber passenger in the car, but you don't have commercial. Oh, you make payment. And so you're on the hook for whatever damages, whatever medical, I get actually. Uber is a good company.
Do you have any service? Or, I, partly too, I asked because I think at one point I was across something I'm doing, but it's so much of signing up for this magazine and that, and like having to like uncheck, and then I mean, I get spammed so much email. So the survey doesn't seem to just be a survey anymore. It seems to be like they're pairing with a bunch of other corporations to like sell your information and data. And I forget this. And
What I recommend, if that's an area that interests you, and I'm not gonna spend too much time on it, because I do want to move on, but you can actually contact the actual company. So like, for example, the toothpaste example, Colgate, Palmolive that makes Colgate toothpaste, you can actually contact them directly so that you're doing the survey directly for them, not doing it through a third party or fourth party or fifth party even, where you're getting that stamp. That's my recommendation.
so I'm across survey online, then
Yeah, a
so you
lot of
figure out
times about
what it's for.
Yeah, a lot of times what Colgate Palmolive will do is actually on their corporate website, they have, a link that you can go to get some of that information about, hey, we're doing a market research survey on X, Y, new toothpaste that's gonna be coming out to the market. It's gonna involve this much amount of your time, we're gonna pay this much. So it's all out there, and then it's just registering, like you're registering directly with them versus that internet company that you probably ran across. So this one, I put this one in here because it's not to make you guys feel sorry for me as a corporate recruiter or to self-gratify myself or anything like that. But I want to give you a reality of what we go through in our daily job. Because we've heard feedback where I apply to a job, I get nothing. I even got an interview, and I get ghosted. I hear nothing. I can't get a corporate recruiter to give me a call back or email so that I know what's going on with my status. So I just want to share with you a little bit about what we do. And then I want to talk a little bit about how you can flip that around and how you become my friend so that you get all that you want. So I'm going to say right off the bat, we deal with chaotic processes. So a lot of people think that, hey, there's a systematic process when you apply to a company. Recruiter's going to take a look at my resume, then he's going to maybe recommend me for an interview. Then I'm going to kind of go through this process. A lot of companies that don't even really have the fine process, so we have to kind of, that's right, we have to work through that. We have to kind of break that for a company at times. Yeah. I'll talk about that in a second. ATS is that applicant tracking system. Yeah. So the other thing too is hiring managers. People that are actually hiring. Can you believe it that 80% of them are not even trained on how to hire?
I believe it, I believe it.
No, yes. So many of them get promoted into their respective jobs, but they're not getting any overview on how to actually hire. Many managers that I work with, that's what we spend time with, is going through the ABCs with them on how do I actually hire? What do I look for when I'm bringing something new onto my team? And how do I do it efficiently? Because that's the other thing too, that sometimes we see, right? I have managers that will say to me, in fact, I'm dealing with one right now. He's like, I want to see 15 people before I make a decision. I'm like, I'm not seeing 15 people, I'm seeing 4. She's like, who the heck are you to tell me how many people I get to see and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, who the heck are you to tell me how I do my job? So we can go back and forth. I'm just giving you a little bit of insights what happens internally. But these are the arguments that, I have with my managers, and this is the frustration that I share with them. If you're not working that particular manner, that's what's causing the frustration with the external job seekers, because you're indecisive, because you want to see 15 people, you're only willing to see 4. And now you're wasting time. So that's the mentality and the perception that we're trying to change. Corporate America, it's not easy for us to do that because the other thing too with a lot of us is the average corporate recruiter working for a little bit of a bigger corporation, not small. You deal with 30 to 40 openings. Think about that. Right now, I have 45 openings. And I'm dealing with maybe 30 managers with those 45 openings. Do I have time on my hands? No. So that's part of the reason why maybe you're not getting that warm and fuzzy. Hey, I'm so sorry that it's been 4 days since you last heard from me.
4 weeks.
Yeah, could be 4 weeks. So, and that's why sometimes you're getting that email instead of that personal touch. I would honestly love to see if there's a way that we could somehow figure this out in corporate America, but we're not. Companies are doing smaller and smaller talent acquisition teams that can be known to you. 6 people, 9 people, come down to 2. Saw from one other person. Staff. That's a reality right now that's happening in corporate America. Sure, really, talent acquisition teams. Oh. So we're dealing with quite a lot. We get extreme pressure to fill quickly, so that goes back to that mentality of what's the recruiter's eyes looking at when somebody applies to a position, or when we're taking a look at our applicants. We're looking at those referral candidates first. We're looking at who's being recommended to hire versus somebody just applied for my job. And maybe I'll get to them. The worst thing is they apply, and it could be 2 weeks, 3 weeks before I even open up that resume. I have 100 resumes. And that person may have already written us off. Done, the next. So it's why I push networking. I'll say it until I die. So. The other thing too, I won't go through the rest. I mean, social media passions out there left and right. You see it? I'm not gonna say it makes us feel good when we get criticized, but it's part of the gig and what we do. But the last part, applicant tracking systems. And we'll talk about that in a minute. That's the way that you get into a company. It's typically through an applicant tracking system. There are some other ways that I'll talk about in a second, but typically through an applicant tracking system. And unfortunately, a lot of these applicant tracking systems have snafus. They just do. It's technology, and things go wrong with technology. So we're dealing with that. We're dealing with setting up interviews. We have to negotiate offers. We're doing candidate sourcing. We're doing job fairs. We're trying to get technology. So there's a lot of different things that are going on in the world of the career. So as you can imagine, with all that around us, it's hard for us to respond. It's hard for us to sometimes give you that one positive report and let you know what's going on. But I'm going to talk about in a second how do you turn that around and how do you get that response? And how do you get the recruiter to become your advocate in the process? Because that's what you want to. So where it starts typically first is it starts with the resume. It's your gateway into a company. And again, that's any job, right? Doesn't matter whether it's retail, doesn't matter whether it's white collar, whatever it may be. What I always recommend as a starting point is you want to align your resume to the position that you're applying to. How many people have heard the adage that I should have like 7 or 8 different resumes? Most of us have one, right? If you use one resume to apply to the various positions that you're interested in, it might work, but I'm probably telling you it's not. Because what my eyes are trained to do as a recruiter is my eyes are trained to look at the person that I'm looking at. Do they have the relevant skill sets for the position? Are they calling out their actionable achievements? Yes or no? And is there maybe anything else that I can leave? Now, I've shared this in the past. The average recruiter is going to spend 10 seconds in your resume. 10. And make a snapshot decision on, yes, this person goes in my yes pile, or no, this person goes in my no pile. 10 seconds. And I've shared with people, because I've been doing this for a while, I give you 5. Think about that. 5 seconds to catch my eye. It's a great one. So my eye is looking at usually what I recommend for people, and we'll get into some of this other stuff. I'm not going to go into all this, but there's some, typically most people will have a summary section or professional profile. It's called a lot of different things, but it's usually on the top of your resume where you're summarizing your overall career achievements. And that could look different for different people, right? It's not going to look the same for everyone. But what I'm looking at is, do you have something there that's actionable, that has results, that shows me that, hey, this person has done something in their respective career? Then, yes, I'm looking at your history, where you worked, what did you do? But here's something that I'll share with you that's pet peeve of corporate recruiters. How many times, you've written your resume and you're thinking about how do I phrase the sentence, write the word assisted. I assisted this process. I assisted. Nothing turns off the corporate recruiter than seeing the word assisted. Because what it means to me is, yeah,
Achieve it.
you didn't show me what you achieved. There's nothing there that's achievable, actionable result. That's the key, and that's the mindset that we talk about in your resume. You're thinking about work for XYZ company. Doesn't matter how long you work for it. It's something. It's something that's actionable, something that resulted in something. And I will argue with candidates on something that people even hear. But I work in IT. So I don't have anything achievable actually live network time. Just play with the servers. Like, so you're telling me that you haven't built a server since you're, oh yeah, I built 10 of them. There you go. Now tell me, what were they for? Did they result in any productivity for the company?
Star story.
There you go. There you go. And that's what you need on your resume. That's why I have in bold here, highlight quantifiable achievements. That is so crucial when we're looking for a job, any job. It's going to catch the eye of the recruiter. That's what's going to help you. Just a couple other things too on your resume. Recommend that you avoid fancy fonts, colors, even your photo. Hate to say it. Discrimination's out there. It is. So your photo sometimes have the company steer away from you. It's not supposed to happen. We're not supposed to do it. I don't personally do it, but it's out there. So I recommend don't put your photo on your resume. And the other thing why we recommend not fancy fonts or colors or anything like that is your resume, especially if you're working with a little bit of a bigger company, it's going into an applicant tracking system. The applicant tracking systems have a hard time reading resumes when there are fancy fonts or there's colors or there's graphics. It might not come through. So if it doesn't come through, am I going to see it on my end? No. So now you've already killed your chance before you even started. So the whole adage is with the resume, keep it simple. Highlight your quantifiable achievements. And then keywords matter. So what does keywords mean? So in my world, if I'm a talent acquisition professional and I'm applying for a talent acquisition job, I want to make sure the word talent acquisition is pretty much highlighted in my resume several different times, because the ATS system is going to pick that up And then when it spits back to me in the corporate world, I'm looking at that, it's gonna say, hey, Sonny has over talent acquisition 15 times versus somebody that has it 2 times. Maybe I should open up Sonny's resume first, because he has more keywords. Does that make sense? That's a big tip. Yeah. In interest of time, I'm gonna try to zip up. This applies a little bit more in the corporate world, which is called the screening interview. So now it's the adage of, I put my resume in, and I got selected to talk to the recruiter. Yeah, progress. But what do we look for? What do we want when we talk to you in the first step? I want you to be prepared. So many times I will talk to candidates that know nothing about my company. Researched it. Just, oh, I'm just talking to the recruiter. Got to do that research. Got to know what the heck did you even apply to the company for if you don't know what the company does, right? So you got to start there and know what the company does. I want to ensure that you understand that much. If you don't, you're probably not going to pass my street. Second thing is you got to be concise in your responses when you're talking to a corporate recruiter and not rambling and rambling and rambling. I don't need your life story. And that sounds like kind of harsh, but I have so many people that want to tell me, this is what I've done, this is what I can do for you. And they'll talk for 25 minutes, 25 minutes straight, just straight, not even breathe. And I'm like, I don't understand how you can do that with breathing. And I'll be honest with you, you know, this could sound really, really bad, but yesterday this happened. I hung up on the candidate.
Oh.
But I hung up on the candidate, 45 minutes straight, talking without allowing me to have a word in, just blah, 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 and I'm like, you blew your chance, so I'm hanging up on you. Now, I called the person back, and I explained to them what they did. I said, you blew your chance with us. Please don't repeat this with another employer, because you're gonna blow your chance and blow your chance and blow your chance. So I'm gonna try to help you with some coaching, but that, again, is a don't want to. So I'm asking you a question, 2 minutes at the most to give a response back. Now let's move on, because again, think about what I shared in the last slide, that 35 to 40 openings a recruiter has that they're trying to deal with. They want to try to get to the heart of the matter in about half an hour is what I can afford to you realistically in a screening call. So if you're going on 25 minutes talking about your life story, we don't have enough time to cover everything else, right? Because I need to know other things so that I can ensure at the end of the day that this is somebody that I want to pass on to my hiring manager. The other thing too is you want to be careful about past employers too. And sometimes what will happen is that when you talk to a corporate recruiter or anybody in the recruiting process, you might become friendly. And that sometimes lets your guard down. And you start talking about past employers and you start talking about, well, this was wrong and this was wrong and this is wrong. He has to be, working in 5 days a week. They have, they work into the bone, blah, blah, blah. That sets off red flags, and it might be truth. Don't get me wrong, it might be truth, but you don't want to set off those red flags for. So you've got to be a little bit careful. The other thing too is that if I, as a recruiter, also, on the flip side, is asking personal questions, you have the right to tell me none of my business. So if I'm asking you about your family, what type of house you live in, what car you drive,
Kids you have.
how many kids you have, you don't have to answer.
Well, how do you respect?
Yeah.
So how do you?
I'll try to provide you a nice way. So the next way, what I would say is the following. I appreciate the question. However, you are asking me a legal question. You're under law, and I don't feel comfortable disclosing this. Now, some recruiters might still trash that response. Reality, depending on how they were trained, but a good recruiter would say, okay, I respect that response. Understand that I went off hard and then get the interview back on track. So that's my advice on how to handle it. Yeah, and just kind of indicating to them, you can say that it's okay, call them out on it, but it is a leak. Shouldn't be asking.
Just a side note to that, Sonny, be careful what you say about previous employers on social media.
That's true too, that's.
Because they can find it, and they will. Everything you do on Facebook, Instagram, all that kind of stuff is all an open door for them to see what you're saying.
I think just a few other little tips on that streaming interview. Ask questions too. It's an opportunity. So there's so many times that I will have candidates and you don't ask me anything. And I'm like, I'm here to help you. I want to help you. So ask the related questions. Lastly, you do want to respect the time of the recruiter. So if they're allocating 30 minutes, again, respectful of that. Now, here's how you become my friend. That follow-up aspect, right? So you had the interview with me, we're concluding. You're not hearing next steps from me. So I'm not really saying much to you about what's going to happen next. Flip that around them. Say, hey, great conversation. I really enjoyed speaking to you, Sonny. When am I going to hear from you for next steps? Or can I reach out to you in 2 days if I don't hear from you? That's valid. I don't get mad at you for asking that. Or if you're putting it, back on me, and I say, hey, give me about 72 hours. You ask that you respect that 72 hours. And if you haven't heard from me, you have every right then to email me, call me, say, hey, I heard from you. You said 72 hours. It's been 72 hours. Well, no, where I stand. That's how you build that respectful rapport with the recruiting team. And how you're going to get recruiters to respond back. Because usually if I'm saying that I'm going to respond to you in 72 hours, now I put that out there. And it's my reputation that gets harmed if I don't respond to that. Versus just leaving it open-ended. Hang up and you don't ask, you're not. Most likely you're not. You always want to set that action.
About 3 weeks ago, I researched something on YouTube. Anyone here looking for a company, they have a lot of YouTube videos. Researchers, I had one I interviewed with was supposed to be a 15-minute interview, supposed to be. It went over 1 hour and 5 minutes. Whoa. Hold on, I got the job. You don't have to be. So I'm like, well, and after the first day I got hired, she's giving me a tour. No, you toured the place, and you're Peter, the president, aren't you? Yeah, I saw YouTube. Hi, how you doing? Again, YouTube is fabulous. Okay, you can learn a lot about the company, people who work there, people who worked there before, and whatever. But I just thought I'd share that. It's very good news. YouTube has a lot of good stuff. Well, anyway, it's all there for free.
It's a good point.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. All right. So the next step is the interview step. So you're actually now interviewing with people directly, hiring manager's team. I'm not going to spend a lot of time in here. We talk a lot about this, but the big thing here too is, you're doing your research, you're coming prepared with those star stories that we talked about. You want to ask questions. The other thing too that I recommend, especially in today's world where things are going a little bit more remote interviewing, sometimes you're not on site. You do want to send a thank you. It makes a big difference. A lot of my managers mentioned that to me too, like, hey, I got a thank you note from your candidate, Sonny, within 24 hours. So you want to get an email address, from that interviewer before you, again, conclude. Really important. And I recommend is within 24 hours, try to send a thank you note to that interviewer. Doesn't have to be long, doesn't have to be, detailed, but just, again, reiterating your interest if you truly are interested in the role. And sweet, to the point. And I'm gonna go far to say that that's your responsibility, not mine. I've had candidates that have sometimes done that and said, hey, I never got the address, manager, somebody can provide it to me. I will eventually get it to you, but that's not my top priority, especially with everything else that I'm dealing with. So it might be 2 days, 3 days before I respond to you and give you that email address. Now I have 2-3 days have gone by. That manager's like, oh, I never got a thank you note. So now you've gone a little bit lower on that hiring manager's totem pole because you didn't take that. Simple little step. Go ahead.
I definitely very important. In the thank you note, I think usually I would just speak great thank you.
Mhm.
Is there any, is there any advantage to writing a sentence or two about why you're the right candidate in that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. What I will share with you too is the AI tools that are out there, so like ChatGPT, Microsoft. You're struggling with what do I put in there? You can actually put it in the chat. I interviewed with an XYZ company, XYZ person for XYZ role. Can you give me a suggested thing? Now, I recommend taking that note and tailoring it a little bit, not just copy and paste and send it off to the hiring manager, but it does the work for you. These are the tools that you have. I guess. I love getting them, even from when I do that first part of that. I don't get a lot. Honestly. Oh, it's do that. So these are all things that are going to help to get that better. And then the last thing that I also recommend too, even in professional interview setting, set that expectation. So now it's not me, it's the hiring team, right? What's the expectation? When am I going to hear back from you? How long are you expecting this process to take? Are you in the beginning? Are you in the middle? Are you in the end? It's all fair questions to be asking. Now, they may not always be truthful in response back with you, but at least you get a little bit of an idea of where they are, where you stand, what the next steps are. And then again, back in a corporate aspect, so if you're applying to a corporate job, you started with the recruiter, that's the first step. You want to come back to me too. You want to say, hey, Sonny, I just completed my interview with the hiring team. What's next? Fair question to ask, I'll respect that. And I should be able to give you an answer. Again, all these little things that, in big steps don't mean, for a lot of people don't mean much, but these are the things that will help you get that leg up. Because a lot of candidates, believe it or not, are not taking advantage of this. We're just kind of going through the process, hoping that they hear back, hoping that the next step occurs, no expectations set. And I'll be honest with you, like, like you said, we're really busy. The hiring managers are really, really, really busy. They're getting everything thrown at them from their managers. So get this deadline done, get this project out the door. So even when they interview, sometimes they forget too. I have a couple managers that sometimes come back to me and they're like, did I do interviews 3 days ago? Yeah. It's like, it's only 3 days ago. They're like, who did I interview? So we had to go back through it, right? So that's why I'm like, the expectations are so.
You should know this too, if you're applying on LinkedIn to a position, LinkedIn will tell you how many applicants have sent in applications. So you know what your competition, at least numbers wise, looks like.
Yeah.
And I've even asked hiring managers, how many people are you looking at? And sometimes they'll tell me, sometimes they won't. But the more information you get, the more you can use to your advantage.
So many different. They'll even tell you, how do you rank up against other
Yeah.
employers? So like, let's say, the employer's looking for 7 skills. It's gonna say like, oh, you have 5 out of the 7 or 6 out of the 7. This is a really good, strong match for you. Alright. The last page, the offer process. So now we get to the end. Companies prepared to give you the offer. Prepared to get an offer. So if those bidders who come up or whoever it might be behind you, going to give you the job, you know what your value is worth in the market. How do I do that? There's tools out there that you can utilize. Salary.com will give you an idea of what you work with.
Salary.com.
Salary.com. Glassdoor will do it for you. You can use the AI tools and say, this is what I do. This is where I work. They'll give you the average salary for the respective metro area that you work in. So we're all in Greater Cleveland. Punch in my job title and an idea of what my worth is in the marketplace. So I recommend the research. The company just, presents something. The other thing too is that you can negotiate benefits if the company's not willing to negotiate salary. So got a job offer, they may not be able to increase the money, but maybe you want a few extra days of vacation time. Maybe you want to see something with a 401k. Believe it or not, companies can. Nobody asks. My company, if somebody pushes us and says, hey, can we have an extra week of vacation because suddenly you weren't able to negotiate salary? 9 out of 10 times we'll give it to you. But 20% of the people ask. It's amazing. Like, just ask. So just a little tip that I want to put out there. The other thing too with offer process, it can get emotional. Both sides, not just your side. It sometimes can become emotional for us too, on the employer side. And kind of have to just ensure that you're being respectful in that process too. So like, if you want to counter your offer and ask for more money, it's not just about saying, I'm going to have an extra $5,000 spare. You gotta come with facts. Why is it not there? How are you rationalizing the request to have more money? Come with it. And we can work to it. And just want 5K more because that's more. The employer is probably gonna say, no, we do our research too. We have a little bit of an idea. This is what we can do. You want to have dialogue. You want to make it 2 ways and have dialogue with the public. So it's not just a one-way street. It shouldn't be the employer, but it shouldn't be you candidate too. It has to be both working together to get to that end. The other thing too is that you just want to be appreciative for getting an offer, even if it's something that you don't like, and even if you're going to turn this down. Just keep that eye of being appreciative, because guess what? In this particular stage of the game, this is where recruiters talk to each other. And believe it or not, it's a small world. So the company that I work for is in medical devices. I have a network of 1,000 friends that work in medical device companies around the whole entire country. than our recruiters. We talk. So the things that we talk about is exactly this. Hey, we presented an offer to Joe Schmo, and he was rude as can be because he didn't take the offer and he disparaged me, blah, 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 blah. I don't think you should work with Joe if he wants to your company. That gets out. And now all of a sudden your reputation, you're not tarnished. Tarnished. It's reality. And don't like throwing out these examples, but this is reality. So you gotta just be careful, especially at the end process. You always wanna keep positive light. Yeah.
Do you said he works with the medical companies, you work with any companies at Brexville?
Not specifically.
Okay, all right, does that ignore the question at this time? All right, thank you.
No, I'll talk afterwards, but give some ideas. And then again, with the offer process, sometimes if you are looking to negotiate it, you just want to be respectful of time too, because sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to just see if we can actually do something with it. And you'll have some people that be like, oh, it's been a day and I haven't heard back from the company. I'm gonna call up the recruiter and just say, what the heck is going on? And then you go off again. And that again is not showing that you're being respectful of the process. And you can always set up follow-up expectations. So if there's something that needs to be looked at, needs to be negotiated, set that time frame. And if we get this resolved in 1 day, it's gonna take 2 days. What is it gonna take?
One more question. Say, this is a hypothetical. They saw this from the movie Kramer versus Kramer about 30 years ago, something like this. If you really need a job, really bad, you're a mechanic job, supervisor job, whatever it is. Go to the interview, all kind polite. If you see something within 1 or 2 minutes of the interview, if you're told them, I'll take 5% below starting pay. Is there anything wrong with it? I do not see there's anything wrong with that. On my part, I don't see there's anything wrong with it.
It's a great.
So you lose $2,000 a year. Who cares? You need a job, right?
Great question. And I will thank you. The answer to that is 10 to 15 years ago, I would recommend that strategy. Today, I would not recommend it. Also, because what it's showing against the employer is that I am desperate.
So, sorry.
Yeah.
This is not an argument. I just
Yeah.
I just want to know why is that wrong? You want to work. You're not going to call off. You're not going to call in sick. You're not going to take off the
The only thing is that the employer doesn't really know. So the employer is typically meeting you maybe for the first time, maybe for the second time. They don't know all the ins and outs about you. So if you're going in there and saying, hey, I'll take a little bit less, but if I really want the job, I can do this for you, I can do that for you. The employer is already with the mindset. In today's market and what we're dealing with right now, well, I got 7 other people that can do that too. And you're now saying that you could take $2,000 to $3,000 less. Showing me that you're a little desperate. I don't know.
Sir, I was the hiring manager. I would have heard that man over the well, looking at the facts, looking at the resume, looking at the criminal record, the background record. To me, that makes perfect sense. If they're determined, they're not lying, they're energetic, they're not going to call off, they're not going to say, I have to go to my baby puppy's birthday party. That's so stupid. That's not my head. This guy said he had to take the day off and take his dog to the vet. That's how he said
In
it.
August, you're up against competition.
I would hire that person because they need a job.
It's not if you're desperate for a job. We want to know that you are really interested in this company and this opportunity, not just, I need a job anywhere, just hire me, I need a job. I want to hire someone who wants to work for this company and has shown, that they're really interested. This is a great company. I heard such good things about you, blah, blah, blah. That's what I would want to see yeah, you want someone who really wants to work because there are a lot of people who don't. But I think it's more you know, you really wanna be a part of this organization, not just, I just need a job, any job, just hire.
Yeah, and you know, it may work. I'm not saying that it won't. What I'm trying to convey is that during the years, we change times. Companies are looking at different ways to not get out. I hate to say that. That's what's happening right now. It's because there's an oversaturation of applicants right now in today's market. So again, you know, I can put a posting out there for a particular job in my organization. In 48 hours, I may even have 300 to 400 people that are. What can we realistically go to 300 people? So these are things that, you know, come into play. And you know, again, saying that I want to take less money, it's not, in hindsight, it doesn't sound bad, but it's a risk to a potential employer because they're saying, hey, this person is showing me that they may be just desperate and they just want a job. I guess.
We can talk afterwards. Yeah, we got to wrap up. So we.
Appreciate time and opportunity to share this. Thank you. But with the job, I just say that job searching is a marathon. It really is. It's not often right now where, hey, I'm gonna, you know, go out there and get a job tomorrow. So, no. Take the time. Take the time to do this research. That's my biggest advice. If I could share, you know, anything with anyone. Time to do your research. It's important, not just, you know, really going out there and trying to buy and get something. You can do that approach. I'm not saying it might work, but I believe that approach is going to take you months and months and months versus having targeted search, going out there and doing the research. You're going to get to anything fast. And then celebrate your small wins along the way too. That's really, really important for your mental and also reminder to get confident. Right? Steps. Hey, I got an interview. That's success in my eyes. Even if you didn't get the job, it's okay. Because we always learn, right? From the experiences that we go through for the next step to get to the proof. Right, okay, yeah,
Okay, I can add something to just that, and then we'll close. Be yourself. Don't try to outsmart him, because you won't. Don't try to overthink this, because you will. You'll overthink it and you won't be yourself, and you'll fail miserably at it. You gotta be yourself, be honest, you know, give them a good impression. And companies hire people they like. May not have all the skills that you need for that job that you're applying for. They can teach you that. But companies are looking for people that they can trust. They'll show up. You know, they have a good work ethic and they like them. Especially if you're working on a team, the team is gonna like you. You gotta like the team. We do an assessment here to determine whether or not, what kind of people you work best with versus what kind of people you don't. You can ask that in an interview. There's a lot to this that we didn't even touch on. Are you willing to share your email for anybody here that wants to reach out to you?
Yes, of course.
Okay, it's not on the slide, but you can write it down.
Yeah. It is Sonny, SONNY. All by an underscore. You know, that's on
Underscore.
Yeah.
Underscore, not a dash.
Not a dash, the underscore. C as in Charlie, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple. That stood for Certified Novell Administrator, which is Kapos. Yahoo.com,
That's that last part, I'm sorry.
yahoo.com.
Well, the one before that.
Yeah,
What's it?
So Sonny_CNA@yahoo.com. Yeah, if you wanna email him with questions or
Yeah.
whatever, because we can't do it all in 2 hours here. But
happy to take
you
it.
see now how important your interactions are with recruiters, people, hiring managers and everything. And be patient. It's hard. Because you wanna, as soon as you get off the phone, and you come back from an interview, you want an immediate response. It's not gonna happen. I waited for 3 months for an interview response. Thought I just gave up on it. And all of a sudden the phone call. And I met the hiring manager in Chicago, at O'Hare, at Baggage, to interview me a second time because he was between trips. 3 months after I interviewed with him, he called me back and said, meet me in Chicago. Here, I'm sending you a ticket. We're gonna talk for a couple hours. I didn't get the job. They ended up hiring from within. But you know, response times are not immediate in this at all. Rarely do you get, if they're really hurting for a fill a position, and you're the one they want to fill that position with, yeah, you're gonna get a call back in a hurry. Because they have an urgent need, but 9 times out of 10, they don't. And you're one of many. Keep remembering that. You're not the only one they're interviewing. So
But
there's so much more we can cover. Please come back. Next month, we're gonna talk about finances. Sonny will hopefully be here and can answer more questions. Take his sheet home. Circle those areas where you may have questions. Circle those areas where you may need to improve your part in this job search process. It's a process on both sides of the fence for what we do and what they do. So let's close in prayer and then we will head home. And Father God, we just thank you again for this day and thank you for who you are. Thank you for blessing us with this time together, that we can freely come and share our ideas and glorify you in what we're doing. Father, you know what's in the hearts of each one of us. You know what our needs are. You know what we're struggling with, whether or not to stay in a job, to look for another job, to whatever that is. You already know that. And like you said in Jeremiah 29:11, you know the plans you have for us to give us hope in the future. And Father, we claim that as a promise. We know that you are going to take care of us. Even when it seems like things aren't going well, we know that you're going to still take care of us because you love us. We thank you, Father, for who you are. We look forward to the blessings you're about to give us. We thank you for what you have given us. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Okay.
Thank you.
You can hang around for about 20 minutes and then we're going to close the building. So if you want to stay here overnight, you can stay later. You just go ahead.
What is the email?
Yeah.
yes,
Hospitals or.
the way that I was thinking, these are companies that make devices. So it's like a company that might make a diabetes insulin delivery device that you put the patch on your skin and it actually puts it. Honestly, don't know a heck of a lot about it.
I work there.
Okay.
It's remarkable, but I look at it on science.
Yeah.
That's John is.
Yeah.
It's not the healer, and the treatment starts about immediately, and they sort of bring back the. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
It's